Welcome to the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. This is the show that shares information and inspiration to help you break free from self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and disempowering patterns, and break through to create the thriving, successful business you dream of and deserve. I'm your host, Winnie Anderson. The show features interviews with entrepreneurs who've overcome amazing challenges to create success on their terms and experts who share insight and practical information to help you move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity so you, the introverted, mission-driven entrepreneur, consistently reach your biggest goals. Be sure to visit winnieanderson.com/brain training to get the show notes, which include links to resources as well as the worksheet for this episode. You've probably tried affirmations, positive thinking, and other typically recommended solutions to release limiting beliefs and disempowering patterns, and I'm sure you've tried hard to change those patterns, but you've probably gotten frustrated and even depressed when your results are not changing. And if that's the case, then you're going to love this episode. Remember, my guests and I aren't giving you financial or health advice. The information we're sharing is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you need help, be sure to seek out a trained professional, whether it's a financial advisor, tax professional, or a mental or physical health care provider. That being said, Holly Stokes, the brain trainer, is a 3-time author and has more than 20 years experience in the field of applied psychology with NLP and hypnosis. She has worked with thousands of clients in rewiring the brain out of stress, cravings, sabotage, and the habits that keep us stuck. She has been quoted by Shape Magazine, Active Times, and the Chicago Tribune, and she appears on radio shows and local TV. She says, for everything you want to create in your life and health, career, it all starts with your brain. Listen in as Holly explains what hypnosis really is and how it's used as a healing modality, how hypnosis that's used for healing is different from the hypnosis used in entertainment, how we actually go through a type of hypnosis in our everyday lives, how to recognize you may need a hypnotherapist, and how to find the hypnotherapist that's right for you, the definition of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and how it helps change behavior, examples of the power of language in our lives, and the one thing the mind can't argue with. As always, listen all the way to the end where I'll share your cocktail exercise and action step for this episode. All right, Holly, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
So as I mentioned earlier to you, yours was one of the sites that I've landed on and gone, oh my God, me too. I feel the same way. So I was so excited to connect with you and get the opportunity to pick your brain a little bit and share your magnificence with the audience here. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. First, I'd like to hear a little bit about your journey. Tell us how you decided to make this your passion and your specialty and what brought you to where you are today.
Yeah. So I wasn't always a hypnotherapist. Most people have a backstory. So I was actually working with at-risk teens in wilderness therapy programs.
Okay.
And I loved it because I could be outdoors every day but it really gave me a window into psychology, what we do, our behavior is not just about the moment, it's about our whole history. So we had these teens, we were helping them. A lot of them had drug and alcohol addictions, helping them build their self-confidence, their communication skills. And we were with them 24/7. So psychologists would come in once a week, interview these kids, and then kind of give us as counselors their psychology homework for the week. Little Johnny needs to open up more, share his feelings. And so I saw that the kids, even though that they knew their pattern, they still struggled to actually create the change. And so we were still kind of, supporting them in the background, but we saw that struggle. So this actually led me to finish my degree in psychology. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be that positive influence. And while I was doing my coursework, one of my psychology professors was talking about the placebo effect. And this is that it's documented. In fact, all of our drug trials are based on this, that just by thinking that we're taking a pill, even if it doesn't have any medical value to it, but just by thinking about it, our body actually makes a change. So we're watching this video, and there's this documentary is people going through mock surgeries and having the same result as if they had had the actual surgery. I know, right? So we get to the end of the video, and one of the last scenes was a man undergoing brain surgery with no anesthesia, talking to his doctors while they're operating.
Stop it.
And only using hypnosis. And I was blown away. After the video, I'm like, hey, what was that? The psychology professor said, oh, that's hypnosis. We're not going to talk about it. I'm like, did we see the same video? Is that, did you miss something?
Yeah.
I was fascinated. How is it that the body can actually, the mind can actually overcome body symptoms and even turn off pain just by using that focus or that intention? So I was hooked. I found a local school that taught both neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis, and I was hooked. This is exactly what I wanted. How can we dive in and help people really create that inner change so that they can have a better result in the outer world?
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
So much there. I could go on for weeks about, when you think about that, I mean, the brain is just such a tremendous mystery in general. It continues to shock me, frankly, how little seems to be known about the brain, and how so many doctors don't, like general GPs, not talking about neurologists or that kind of thing, but just how so many doctors seem so incredibly uninformed about the brain and brain issues. It's shocking to me. It really is. It's disturbing. I mean, when I had my accident back in 1999, I was in the hospital for a week. Considering you have a baby, they kick you out. My mom had gallbladder surgery like 10 years ago, and it was an outpatient kind of thing, and I'm in the hospital for a week, so it must have been pretty bad. And one of the things I remember from being discharged was I met with this guy who I don't recall seeing ever before, but of course I had a head injury. And I'm sitting there, which that alone, you would think they would say, no, we're not discharging you unless there's somebody else right here with you, because we want to make sure you get all this. But the one thing I remember was a couple of things. He never looked at me the whole time. He's just leafing through pages and said, okay, so you have a head injury and you have brain damage, and this is the best you're ever going to get. What you are right now is the best you're ever going to get. And so, bye.
Wow.
I'm just like, wait, what? What are you talking about? This is the best I'm ever going to be. I can't stop repeating myself. I see vision. What? Just really outrageous when you think about everything that really was wrong. And get me somewhere. Get me some help. Come on. Right. Yeah, shocking.
And well, there's a lot of new information. What we're learning about the brain is certainly becoming more, we're learning more and more all the time. And also getting the awareness of how powerful language is. Like, that's a really great example of what people in authority, doctors especially, say, how much of an effect it can have on people. Yeah. So it's definitely one of these pieces of awareness that's coming forward, is that how we talk about things, the messages that we give to other people are so important, and especially for people in the healthcare industry, especially.
Right. So, and I'm making notes as we talk.
Yeah.
So, I do want to cover these two issues a little bit. So one is just the idea of hypnosis in general. I think so many people have these misperceptions about hypnosis in general. I know a few people who actually have the skill of hypnosis, and they use hypnosis in their work. But, we've got this old mental picture of a guy with a big watch, and you're going to start
Yeah.
clucking like a chicken when
Right.
when he counts to 3 or something. So can you just give us a nice overview of what hypnosis really is and why it is so powerful for helping people move past issues they might have?
Yeah. Well, a lot of our misconceptions come from stage shows, which are very entertaining. They call a bunch of people up to the stage. So what they do in stage shows, they typically use confusion patterns. They call a bunch of people up to the stage. The hypnotist runs through confusion. And then the ones who go into kind of a dazed frame of mind and look to the hypnotist, those are the ones they keep. Everyone else, So the thing that stage shows are very entertaining. I'll leave that to the entertainers. But in therapeutic hypnosis, we look at relaxing and focusing the mind. So it's really all your own mind's power. And we're looking at whatever the mind is running automatically in the background. So I'm sure you've had the experience before. Like, I know what I need to do. I just can't make myself do it.
Yeah.
Right? So part of it at the conscious level, we're making our goals, we're setting our intentions, our plans. We have our, I'm going to do these tasks. But what's going on in the background, even at that automatic level? So here's the thing is, hypnosis is well known for changing habits, stop smoking, overeating.
Right.
So we have habits in what we do, which are obvious, but then we also have habits in what we think and how we feel. So I like to call the unconscious mind the automatic mind. It's in charge of whatever's running automatically in the background. And we get that through our history, through different patterns that become then set on automatic or a habit. So hypnosis is a way of focusing your mind, your awareness, and then getting the automatic mind to switch its focus. So whatever it's been running in the background, we don't have to continue living with those old programs, with those old thoughts, with those old behaviors of the mind, those habits. I call them brain habits. We can just get it to switch what it's running. And then from there, it really opens up our freedom to do differently, choose differently, think differently, feel differently. And then from that base of how we feel, that's where we're taking action.
Wow, that's really powerful. So is everybody a potential candidate for the use of hypnosis as a therapeutic modality, or are there some people that are more suggestible? Maybe that's one of those misconceptions. So how does that work?
Yeah, everyone, because it's your own mind's power. So what we say in hypnosis, if you can follow directions and instructions, and we as a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, we're looking to update your automatic mind. Let's give it some new instructions, give it some new things to start focusing on or doing instead. So usually when I meet with clients, we kind of have that first part of the session is we identify, okay, what's your brain doing in the background? What do you want it to do differently? So it's really kind of a process of working together with the client to then help your mind make that switch. Okay. So everyone can really be hypnotized.
Okay, and that really does make a lot of sense, and I like the separation of there's the entertainment value, and then there is the therapeutic modality. And my assumption would be if somebody is coming to you for support, they're coming to you for help, they're going to be open to having you help them. I mean, I can't imagine, maybe there might be some initial discomfort maybe, but I would think that, I mean, I know when I went for therapy after my car accident and I had a team of therapists, physical therapists, I had a psychologist I went to, I would have done whatever because I wanted to get better. So I'm coming to you as a professional. I realize this is a partnership of my getting better. You tell me what to do. I have to actually do it. So my guess would be that people who come to a hypnotherapist are open. Do you find that true for the most part?
Yeah, there's an agreement that they're looking for answers. They want to make a change. And of course, you want to choose someone that you can trust, you know, that they have that professionalism, that recognition of creating that safe environment, that atmosphere. And we also kind of think of hypnosis as kind of like magic. But we're actually going through states of hypnosis every day. So a good example is when you're driving down the street and you miss a freeway exit, your mind's just kind of wandering off or not really focusing in that moment.
Yeah.
That's a good example of a hypnosis state that we kind of get caught in. So a lot of people kind of have that misconception. It means I'm going to blank out, lose control, not remember, which isn't true in therapeutic hypnosis. I actually want your mind to remember. I want your mind on board with the change. And then typically I'll also record sessions so you can continue using that to help keep your mind updated and keep your mind on track.
Okay. So how does somebody know that hypnotherapy is a good option for them? Where is it sort of like a last resort, or how do you make that conscious decision that, you know when you need a podiatrist, so how do you know when you need a hypnotherapist?
Yeah. So, well, any brain habit that you notice, anything that's reoccurring automatically, recurring thought, reoccurring a negative habit, we can help the brain update and change that. Even reoccurring negative emotions, which are usually created from reoccurring negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. A good example is self-talk. Most people have some kind of negative self-talk in the background. Mine used to call me stupid. What'd you do that for, you stupid?
Right.
It's hard to make that traction forward if your mind is running these automatic habits or patterns in the background. So any of those are good indicators. Often if find you're working with a coach and you're, okay, we have the goals, this is where I'm going to move forward, I'm going to do this, this, and this.
Right.
But as you're moving forward, you're still kind of dragging your feet, you're struggling. Those are good indicators that your mind has something in the background that's getting in the way. Yeah. So I call it sabotage. Part of me wants to, part of me doesn't.
Yeah. All right. So we need to have a chat offline about this as well. Because that's the nature of what I do. And there comes a time when for some people, they're still, I give it the best I possibly can. But some people really do get stuck. I came to the realization during my recovery from my accident, and I think I said it happened in 1999. So we're recording this in 2019. This is my 20th anniversary.
Wow.
Actually,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, thanks. I feel like it is quite an accomplishment. The anniversary was actually March 7th, so fairly recent as we're recording this. And I came to the realization in that recovery process that, and I won't bore you with all the details, but that strategies that I had adopted as a kid that allowed me to survive and even thrive in an abusive environment had reached a point where they weren't working anymore. They were now actively in my way. Perfectionism helped me to stay under the radar. Brene Brown refers to perfectionism as a shield. And that was my shield to avoid my mother's, fury that, well, if I'll just be perfect, she can't be there for her to yell at, or, as a 6-year-old, that's a pretty big thought. Yeah. But of course it wasn't working, but it was a pretty big thought for me to have. And then, so you become a perfectionist. And then at some point we know that that's just a dysfunctional pattern that does not support life as an independent professional. So how does someone then, okay, so I've got these issues. I've tried, right? I've tried thinking hard. I've tried reading books. I've tried these strategies. I can't seem to get past them. I discover hypnotherapy somehow. How do I choose? Because I shared with you, I know several other people, and now I know you, who all use hypnotherapy in the work they do with their clients. And of course, they're niched, right? They have specific niches that they work in. So how do we find the right person for us?
I would say that first part, just making sure that there's someone that you can trust, that you feel that connection with, that they're listening to you, that they're hearing, what you're talking about. And so those are good indicators. And also, different professionals have different areas where they like to focus.
Right.
I tend to focus on building the inner self. Confidence and healthy life builds out of that as well.
Right.
So yeah, looking for, one of those areas. But the field of hypnosis is so dynamic that we can switch it up, change it according to the needs of the person. And so along with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, it's very complementary to hypnosis. And someone with NLP background actually can make the hypnosis more targeted because there's different frame structures that we're looking for that may not have been in the teaching modules with hypnosis. So those are really good complements. And then again, looking for what's their experience with the issue that you're looking for.
Okay.
But when we understand the layers of the mind and kind of those hidden structures, like you're saying, perfectionism, consciously, I know nobody's perfect, but it's that kind of feeling level, just I can't stop editing my book. I can, I have to make sure everything is 100%, which has value, and it can also really get in your way if you're, like you said, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have to get things out of the door or hit those timelines, it can really have you tied up in knots and not enjoying, the process of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really great way to express it. And I talk about it as there's the road to excellence, right? So there's the excellence, the striving to be tops in your profession and to always deliver a great product, whatever that work product is, right? We're not saying be schlocky and be happy with being schlocky,
right?
But there's that limit or that point where this has really become a serious problem, whether it's, I come from a corporate background, whether it's an employee who can't get something done, this is a problem, or you as an independent professional can't let go and continuously tinker, and you're not getting any clients because you're still tinkering with your sales process.
Right.
Yeah. So there has to be that happy point where you recognize, well, I'm just going to keep improving on it. It's like forgiving yourself or something there.
Yeah, giving yourself permission to be human.
Yeah. And that's actually that's exactly how I even express it, that you've just got to give yourself permission.
Yeah.
This isn't good enough as in you're lame. This is good enough as in I'm growing towards excellence and I'm growing towards being the best I possibly can be. So let's talk then about NLP. I think that anybody listening to this show, it probably has heard of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. If nothing else, Tony Robbins is probably the most well-known famous person, right, for using NLP. So can you just give us a little overview of what exactly that is and why it's so powerful? And I made some notes while you were talking. I think we all have examples of it in our lives, but let's hear from the expert's definition.
So the best definition I like for NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, well, we can even break down the word. Neuro refers to the neurons in the brain.
Right.
Linguistic refers to our language patterns. Just like we were talking about, if a doctor says this is as good as you can do, it has an effect, right?
Yeah.
And then programming refers to our history. So these experiences, like you said, your childhood, then kind of cued your brain to see life a certain way, to see yourself a certain way, to adopt inner habits and patterns, and then also outer habits and patterns. So that we call programming. How has your brain been wired over time through your experiences? And I like the definition that NLP is about the brain's coding system. We have inner representations of how we see ourselves, how we see the world. And they're kind of in the background of our files. So NLP is about understanding the brain's inner coding system and then tapping into it so that we can help the brain make a change and come out with a different response. So like you're saying, this example of I need to be perfect is a really good example of that. Over time, the brain picks up these, as this response to what's going on in your situation, says, oh, if I'm just perfect, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be safe. Then I'll be valuable. Then I'll be loved.
Right.
And so this becomes one of those inner rules in the background of the mind that even though at the conscious level we're growing and getting the updates, the unconscious mind doesn't get the update. It's still running off of the old rules that may or may not apply, usually don't apply anymore. So that's a really good example. The benefit with NLP, we don't have to go into a trance state. So if someone is feeling uncomfortable about hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming is a really good option. We don't have to go into trance. We can help the brain recode that system through other exercises. I call it brain training. Let's help the brain create new patterns, new habits, and then automate it to do something different.
So
did I answer your, oh, go ahead.
You did.
Okay.
Yes, it was fascinating. It was great. You nailed it. And that whole issue of programming, my God, that's like a giant head slap moment. That's exactly what it is, right? We start out, and this is the conclusion, the layman's conclusion that I came to one night back in my office in where I used to live. It's just like this. This is exactly why I can't get what I want, because it worked there, and the safety was an issue, right? Mm-hmm. And even in corporate life, there's a lot of dysfunction and a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. Somebody else has control of your economic life. My first third of my career was spent in human resources, and we actually refer to termination, involuntary termination, as capital punishment. Because you've killed somebody's career. And so with that kind of language and fear, really, jobs don't grow, great jobs don't grow on trees. And there's that fear that if I do something wrong and I'm not in a healthy environment, I could lose my economic livelihood and my economic life. So yeah, and this issue of programming, it does start at childhood, right?
Yeah.
As we react to the environment that we're in, and we get messages from that environment, including the media, etc. So let's talk though about this issue with language, because I think it's so powerful, and just listening to you brings back so many things. I had a choice, right? We don't want to minimize that. I had a choice when that doctor said, well, this is as good as you're ever going to be. Yeah. I could have said, you're right. I'm never going to get any better. I'm going to constantly repeat myself. And I know people who have had head injuries who have not had the recovery that I have had for a variety of reasons. My reaction, because I'm a little hard-headed, reaction when that doctor said that, okay, so I'm from Jersey. You can just imagine what my reaction was. It was pretty much, bite me. There's no way that I'm going to settle for this. There is no way. I'm 36. It's not going to happen. I'm going to get back to my old self. Yeah. I'm probably 90 to 95% of what I once was. And most people would never guess that there was anything, air quote, wrong with me. Right? So how do we, and there are, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point. I know that there are times when I've said things out loud and then they happen, right? And that's a little on the scary side. And I know also people there's somebody who I adore. His name is Jeff Rock, and he is a fabulous coach. And he said something to me, and it's coming true now, years ago. So talk about that magic, if you can, about the power of that happening and of language. I have a friend who calls herself an idiot. It breaks my heart because she's one of the smartest humans I've ever met. So can you talk about that language and the power of language?
Yes, definitely. Language, it's an integral part of NLP. In fact, it's the kind of the artist brush that any hypnotherapist is using. They're using language. language has the ability to direct our mind and our focus. So, a good example is don't think about a white elephant. And notice as you do, what does your mind picture?
Right.
Right, the white elephant. So really paying attention to how you're using language, both internally and externally. And when we do negatives like that, part of the mind doesn't get it. So if I tell clients, stop smoking, what are they picturing in their mind?
Right.
They're picturing that smoking.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Kind of think of that automatic mind, that unconscious mind. It really responds to images. It responds to imagery, symbolism, metaphor. In fact, Milton Erickson was studied in the world of NLP, kind of came about because researchers wanted to see what makes some people successful and others seem to kind of spin their wheels. So they really studied who are the therapists who are getting this amazing success with people, and one was Milton Erickson. He was a hypnotherapist. So part of that is really pay attention to the words that you use. They matter. If you have that inner self-talk, I actually have a blog that as you read it, it's designed to get you out of that negative self-talk. In fact, I heard Tony Robbins once said, your number one job is to manage the voices in your head. We all talk to ourselves in some way internally.
Yep.
So how do we get them on board with being encouraging and supportive rather than just being at the mercy of some of these patterns, habits that the mind has picked up, right? So yes, just being really clear with your language. What do you want? Instead of talking about what you don't want, really focus your language on what you do want. Where you are going, where you are headed. As I work with a lot of people on confidence, really getting that clarity with your inner self and getting your, tapping into your awareness, your gifts, and your talents so you can be more effective in the world. As we look at that part of it, we also recognize that there's these inner habits and patterns, right? And the more that we focus on what we're creating rather than what has happened in the past, the more powerful and effective we are. So a lot of times we tend to define ourselves by the past. Even, hearing people talk about being a survivor, they're still kind of, not to diminish a journey that someone goes through, but the more that you can define yourself by the positive future that you want, the more power you'll find within yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
It makes a tremendous amount of sense. And I don't even really use the language of survival at this point, right?
Yeah.
Initially, because I did survive. 33% of the people who have my kind of head injury are the ones who survive. So a large portion of the population does not make it. So there was that point of, I'm a survivor. And then there is I'm not going to stay in survival. I'm going to continue to get better, right? Yeah. And I wasn't even really fully focusing on that when I made that conscious choice to screw you. I'm not going to sit here and survive. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get back to where I was and then some. I'm just going to keep accelerating and going. So
at that point, really start defining yourself by what you're becoming, not where you've been. Right?
Right.
Even though the past can be useful to inform more about what we want.
Yeah. It was like the benchmark that I was using against, right? Like, okay, so I constantly repeat myself, and I didn't when I, before the accident. I want to get back to not repeating myself. So yes, I can see how that was reflecting on the past, but still it I had to work towards getting that back. And so for a person with a head injury, it's this balance of understanding that was probably the benchmark, and now you're trying to move past where you are to accelerate and achieve that growth. So I think this is really fascinating, and what I think I'm gonna push a little bit here because I know what the listeners are probably thinking. There's this, because I hear this from people, right? There's this level of, this is just semantics. You're just playing games.
You bet it is.
And there's this level of, I'm being realistic, right? So you've got the person who wants to become the six-figure business owner, the million-dollar business owner, and right now they're looking at zero. So how do you do this? Because I think it's a combination of, because I was staring at somebody who couldn't function. When I looked in the mirror, I couldn't function effectively, right? But I was able to remember that I could, so that helped give me the incentive to work past this. But I think the business issue is an even more powerful one, because you had some level of business success. The audience that we're talking to today, most of them, I'd say 90% of them, are people who they're on their second or third career act. So they have some success, but they're looking at, I'm trying to build this business. So how do I manage to use this language in a way that's uplifting, that doesn't make me feel like I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't know. So help us here.
So part of this goes to, affirmations. We've all probably had the experience with working with affirmations. When you say, I am a confident, powerful business owner.
Right.
If you're not 100% there, part of your mind in the background, no, you're not. You didn't have any clients this week. So it's kind of sets up this, part of us wants to recognize reality. And sometimes if affirmations feel too far in the future, we don't want to be out of touch with reality, right?
Yeah.
So there's some simple language cues that we can use to start bridging this gap. And your mind can't really argue with you. So I can become a savvy business owner. I can find the avenues to reach the people that I can help.
Okay.
Right? So that word can opens up this possibility.
Yeah.
So start using that. Your mind can't argue with possibility.
Right.
Right? I can find the people that I want to reach. I can have those conversations that make a difference in people's lives. So part of it, and especially as business owners, sometimes, especially if we're new to business, we haven't mapped this territory before. We don't even know what it looks like. But as we're using language that opens up this possibility, the other one I really like is in the process. I am in the process of learning to be a multi-million-dollar business owner,
right.
if that's the goal. I actually recommend dialing back the goal a little bit so it's not overwhelming, right?
Right.
I can make $5,000 every month, or starting wherever you need to kind of push that zone for you.
Yeah.
And then allowing yourself to be in that process. No child really got on a bike and just started rolling down the street with, mountain biking, popping wheelies and stuff. We all had a process. And I really like using that metaphor for any area of life, whether it's learning about your health, how to keep your life, your body and health and balance, whether it's creating positive, supportive friendships or connections, whether it's managing your money, whether it's growing a business. Everything has a process to it. And the more that we can kind of relax and enjoy that process, the better time that we're going to have with it as well.
Yeah, and focus on that issue of becoming, right?
Yes.
That I am in the process,
yes.
And every mistake brings me that much closer. I'm learning more about fine tuning. So it really comes down to kind of what you're focusing on, right? Just
Definitely.
like you're either focusing on the clouds or the sun.
And that is semantics, because you had mentioned that before. Isn't this just semantics? Yes, it is. But our words matter. Our words direct our mind and our automatic mind. Sorry to...
No. That's great. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, because it's not just semantics.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. It is semantics, and there's no reason to blow it off. It is critically important.
It's like the placebo effect. How many people dismiss the placebo effect,
right.
And they're missing this amazing power of your mind to heal your body, to repair things, to find answers and tap into your potential. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a commercial. I was watching TV and a commercial came on, because, of course, there are all these commercials for all these drugs. You can't watch any show without being bombarded with them. And I'm always listening for the fine print, And there was one, I don't even remember what it was, but it was talking about how this performed better than the placebo or whatever. And I'm like, well, yay for you. But that means that I could just sit here and practice the think system and try and get better then. So why would I want to take a drug? Right. So yeah, no, well, this has really been fascinating. And so I could go on for hours, and there's so many different ways. And I did have some things that I had planned to ask you, but I think we've hit most of them. But I just want to glance at my questions here to make sure that, okay, so let's talk about, if we can, some of these negative patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're not MDs. We're not giving individualized advice. Your mileage may vary. Contact a professional and get medical help if you need it. Okay, so that being said, let's talk about some of these dominant negative patterns that we get in, because I think that language issue, I'll tell you how I did it, right? And you can feel free to critique me as I did it. So back in my mid-20s, I want to say, I was not the person that is with you today. I was miserable. I had like a quarter life crisis. I realized that, man, unless I was at work, I was miserable, right? I loved my job. At one point when this happened, I was a secretary, and I was in between finishing my degree. I was a secretary at a corporate fitness center. Greatest frigging job ever. So much fun, such great people. I loved it. And outside of work, I was miserable. Well, at some point you have to realize that I'm miserable. Why am I miserable? And I started to really tune into what I was saying. And that was when I first became conscious of the fact that, why am I so negative? Why do I say and this was a pattern, that I would just automatically think negative thoughts, say negative things. And I started to dawn on me that, you know what, I'm really miserable. What in the heck is going on here? And then one night, in the middle of the night, I got up to go to the bathroom, stubbed my toe, and called myself stupid. And in that moment, it was like a giant blinding flash of the obvious. Like, I hit my toe. I'm not stupid. Right? Other people hit their toes. Right. And if my husband at the time had hit his toe, I wouldn't say, well, you're a jerk. I mean, I just wouldn't have come into
my wouldn't do that to others.
Right? Yeah. So why are we nicer to other people than we are to ourselves? So I think that, do you think that people who then pursue this as, okay, I need help, do they have that kind of some kind of epiphany kind of moment? Back to the, when do you realize that I really do need help?
Well, if there's some pattern that you're struggling with that you want to change, that's a good indicator that you can, the NLP or hypnosis will help get out of that pattern. And I think, just like you're saying, part of it's an awareness. So sometimes we're kind of doing the same thing and we don't even recognize that we have these inner patterns. A good example of this is procrastination. So, when you talk, people recognize procrastination. I know what I need to do. I'm not following through. They're not kind of connecting those dots in the background, because what's kind of keeping them from doing, following through on your phone calls or following through on contacting people, what our mind is doing, we're avoiding something. If we're avoiding something, our mind has a reason for it. I'm avoiding making phone calls because I don't want to sound stupid, because I'm worried that I'll get rejected, because there's all of this background stuff that the mind is doing. And so any time that you feel stuck, anytime you recognize that you have a pattern you want to change, and a lot of times, it was great that you were able to make that awareness. Hey, I'm doing this to myself. Why am I putting myself down just for some small things? So if you can start changing that, yes, by all means, start taking control of your awareness and how you're talking to yourself. a lot of things we say to ourselves, we wouldn't dream of saying to other people, right?
I know. We're so
And if it feels, go ahead.
No, we're just so mean to ourselves.
Well, our brain has learned it from somewhere, like, oh, if I put myself down, then it keeps other people from attacking or criticizing me. There's different patterns. Most of them, we picked them up as a kid and they made sense for that time, but as an older, wiser adult, we're not really embracing our full of talents, abilities, and giving ourselves the credit to really help us take charge of where we are and really move forward. So yeah, that awareness piece, start changing it. And if you do notice a pattern or a habit that you're not making traction with, go visit a professional. NLP, hypnosis are these amazing ways of really identifying that background information. Sometimes we have no idea what it is. I just feel stuck. I just don't know why I feel this way.
Yeah.
So those are all good indicators.
Do you think it's important to get to the root of the issue, because this is programming? This did happen early on. We're watching a movie that's several years old. It's called Rebel in the Rye, and it was about J.D. Salinger and his early life to writing Catcher in the Rye, and then a little bit beyond that. And it really showed how these big moments in his life and big moments in his parents' lives, and how they influenced the moments in his parents' life influenced their parenting and the things that were said. And, often those things can be really hurtful. Of course, our parents are repeating their own pattern, and they're saying these things. Maybe their word choice could be better.
Right.
They're saying this with the intent not to hurt.
Yeah.
Usually. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? They're saying this with the intent to help you stay safe, to help you what they say is be more practical, because of course they're worried about you, right? So how important do you think it is to get to that root issue? Is it possible to just move forward without going back and going, that's why I'm stuck doing this stuff?
Mm-hmm. So I would say yes and yes.
Okay.
So sometimes if the mind's really holding on to a pattern, there's usually some root issue that needs to be addressed. And, we can help the brain kind of get around that and create something different there. Typically, the things that really keep us stuck is someplace we made a choice. Kind of like you were recognizing, through that history where you grew up, your brain said, okay, I'm doing this pattern. I'm being perfect for a reason. Being perfect means I'm safe. So sometimes if the brain's really holding on to a pattern, identifying, unhooking that root cause is very effective. And then also some things are just habits and associations that are very kind of simple level. We can just help the brain make a shift. So one example of this, I was teaching healthy lifestyle classes. It was week 4 of the class. All my ladies filed in and took their seats. I'm like, all right, great, welcome. Now, what were you guys doing for exercise? Nobody wanted to make eye contact. They're like staring at the floor, just like the silence. So I just let the silence hang there for a minute. And then finally one of my clients, she raised up her arm. If we like to exercise, we wouldn't be here. So I'm like, oh, okay, NLP, what are you guys thinking and feeling in the background when you think of exercise? Sweaty, hard work, yuck, embarrassing. So that all comes from our history. If you're feeling embarrassed when you go to the gym, how motivating is that? So those are associations, and it's not some sinister, background to that. It's just the collection of what the experiences we've had. Our brain creates positive and negative associations to these things we experience. So sometimes it's more of a very simple level association change, helping the mind create new habits or giving it a new focus while you're doing those exercises so you can start enjoying it. As a kid, how many of us would run just for the sake of running? I mean, I remember really loving that and having games and totally got my exercise without even having to think about it, right?
Yeah, because then it was play. It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
exercise.
Right.
It was
Right.
play.
So a lot of things we can just do, habit, association change, pattern changes, and then things that just really feel like dialed and stuck in there. There's ways of getting the brain to unhook those and move forward. So.
Yeah, and to me, and I made I have an entire page here of notes from just listening to you. So two big things jump out at me that I think are super painful for us, especially as women. And then there's one other thing I'm going to make a note of because I want to ask you about this as well. I could go on seriously for days. So I think a big part of this, and I might be projecting here, I think a big part of this comes down to self-love and believing you are worthy of what you want.
I totally agree. So when I work with people, we actually look at 5 different metrics, and worthy is one, deserving is one. Not only do we kind of get, there's traditional ideas going around about women still in our culture, but we also get a lot of other programming. Some people are more worthy and deserving than others. Your salary equates to what you're worth. Charge with what you're worth. I totally disagree with that statement. Kind of pull them apart.
Yeah.
What you are worth is infinitely valuable.
Exactly.
So, yes, the more that we can update those inner evaluations and kind of make that playing field horizontal, because in every culture it seems we have some hierarchy of who's worthy and deserving and who's not. We have this hierarchy, but that's not really the truth. I mean, as humans, we're all in this amazing experience of living, thinking, perceiving, being a part of this miracle of life. Right. And we're going to say that some people are more worthy than others, or some people are more deserving than others. So the more that we can make that playing field horizontal, hey, we're all souls in the human journey. We're all here to share our gifts and talents and to help each other along the way. Then do you feel intimidated when you're talking to a CEO of a company if you have that as the background? Hey, we're all humans in this human experience, right? And I can respect your knowledge for what you know, and I can also respect myself for what I know. And then we have better connections this way.
Yes.
Sorry, I know I probably went on a soapbox there.
No, I love it. I'm on the same soapbox you are.
Okay.
Absolutely, this is fabulous. So I think the one final thing that I'd like to leave folks with before we turn it over to where they can go to get more information. Okay, 2. One is, this is really a modality, we'll call it, without boundaries, right? I mean, thank God there's technology the way there is, as annoying as it can sometimes be, because I'm kind of geographically impaired where I live right now, but I don't have to be impaired because technology, you can work with anybody, right? You don't have to be physically located where somebody is in order to access a professional to work on NLP issues or experience hypnosis as a modality. Is that right?
That's right. We meet just like we're meeting here and talking. So it's like having that conversation, even though there's a computer between you, I've had those conversations all over the world. So this is great that where you are, geographically doesn't make a difference. You can still access, amazing resources and connect with people very simply and easily online.
Yeah, and I think this issue of deserving, worthy, is so huge because I've had people who I have, I'm going to air quote, confronted, right?
Yeah.
You say you want X, but you're not doing any of the things that could even potentially help you get X. Mm-hmm. I can't help you if you are not going to take the actions that could lead to X. X doesn't happen overnight. X requires effort. It requires whatever it is that X requires. Mm-hmm. You're not doing any of those things. I cannot help you. Mm-hmm. And it pains me to watch and try to work with someone who won't take those actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the folks who follow this show and listen and watch are coaches, consultants, healers, other kinds of professional solution providers, I refer to them as. I know at some point, I hate to say fired, at some point I will break up with a client. Mm-hmm. If that person, if I'm unable in my bag of tricks to get the person to take action. Because so many people say, I need help, I'm ready for help, but don't actively participate in their own solution.
Yeah.
How do you, what should we do? Do we need to tell those individuals, you need help, more help than I can give you? And what can we do to send them on their way to get help? I want to fix everybody and I can't.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's a really good point to recognize. At what point when you're working with someone as a coach, are they just not getting that traction that they need? Typically what's happening, that sabotage, consciously, I know what I need to do. I just can't, I'm not taking those steps, like if you want to learn to ride a bicycle, you got to pick up the bike.
Right.
So what is it that the person is avoiding the bicycle, right? So those are good places or distinctions to say, hey, you just really need this one, you need to resolve what this sabotage is. And I think that's, as a professional, as a coach, where you really want people to have the result and really wanting to help them is to create those relationships with hypnotherapists, NLP people that you can refer them and we can unhook the sabotage and I'll send them back to you. Any hypnotherapist, NLP person that really is that's wanting to help people grow, they would have that respect to send them back your way, right? To continue their process. So I would say those professional relationships are really good to build and create that network. And I think it's wonderful that you recognize, hey, we're just, coaching services, they do take time, they do take money. And at what point are people just not getting the traction that they need? So usually those things are those hidden cages that most people have in the background. I can't move forward because I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, because my family said none of us could succeed. Whatever those inner cages are that keep us from moving forward. So I think that's a great distinction, finding those professional resources and then creating those relationships. Because we all just really want to see people succeed, like you said.
Right. Yeah. I could go on for days. This has been
well, I'd love to chat again.
Yeah, I would too. This has really been fantastic. Absolutely outstanding. Such great information. Please do everybody a favor and explain where they can go to get more information. You really do have a great website with tons of great information. So send them where you want them to go to learn more.
Excellent. So if you go to The Brain Trainer LLC, so that the THE Brain Trainer LLC.com/motivation. Sign in there, you'll get a free download. It's the Instant Motivation Kit, and it'll help you start learning how to tap into your internal world to make that bump up your motivation just by thinking about it. So there's a download, there's an audio, there's an e-booklet there, and so that's probably the best place to get started.
Okay,
and then,
great.
Yeah, and if you're anyone out there listening, you're welcome to call and get a free consultation. And on the website at thebraintrainerllc.com, you'll see a button for schedule a free consult or a session.
Super. And we'll have links to all of that as well. So people who are driving don't have to go, wait, what was that? And you can just come on back to the episode and get the show notes and get the links there. And we'll include all the other places online where Holly is so you can track her down and connect with her. This has been an awesome, awesome episode. I'm so thankful that we
Thank you.
connected and that you were able to spend so much time with me today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
All right, I hope you found that helpful. Holly is just a joy to talk with. If you like this episode, please share it with your connections. Please leave a great review for it on the platform where you consumed it, and be sure to subscribe either on that specific platform like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, or you can subscribe to the video version on my YouTube channel. When you subscribe on my website at winnieanderson.com/fans, you'll get episodes emailed to you each week along with the corresponding worksheet for that episode. In addition to the episodes, you'll get information, tips, and resources to help you sell your services, even though you hate selling, stand out as the unique solution provider you are, and get your message out in a more powerful way so you profit from your expertise. All right, so your cocktail exercise, otherwise known as a reflection exercise. No alcohol needs to be involved. Don't drink and drive. Don't overindulge. All right, so your reflection exercise is really to think about what you want to achieve and why you're not achieving it. Do you know what you need to do and you just don't do it, or don't do it consistently? At some point, you have to ask yourself why, and you have to acknowledge that you need help. And of course, you then have to get that help and embrace it. Think long and hard about what you may be resisting and why you're staying stuck in these patterns. And your action step. This is actually 2 steps, maybe even 3 steps, but you get the point. I want you to begin to tune into what you're saying to yourself and what you're doing. Buy a pack of those elastic hair ties, the black elastic bands that you use to put your hair in a ponytail, or some woman uses them to put her hair in a ponytail. Buy the pack that has a lot of them, like a dozen. I want you to put them all on your right wrist. Then every time you say or think something negative about yourself, or you rationalize why you're not taking action, I want you to move the band from the right wrist to the left. Then at the end of the day, I want you to see how many you have. And then, of course, you need to reflect on all this. How are your thoughts and actions keeping you from achieving what you keep saying you want? Are you really ready to achieve your goals, or do you want to just keep saying you want to? Are you afraid of confronting what's blocking you? And maybe you're afraid of success or failure. Now, if you liked this episode and you thought it was helpful, please share it with your connections. Remember, if you're an introverted solo professional or someone with introverted leanings, you're ready to reach your business goals as part of a community of like-minded and like-personality professionals, then head over to winnieanderson.com/join the group and join my Courageous Success community on Facebook. It's for introverted, mission-driven entrepreneurs, and it's where I share tips and strategies to help you choose faith over fear and take consistent action to achieve your goals. Thanks for listening, and remember, you deserve all the success you dream of.